Have you ever wondered what it actually takes to build a leader who simply cannot be compromised? Well, welcome to this explainer. Today we're unpacking a really fascinating framework from the Ethical Leadership 2020 and Beyond program. Now, this isn't your run-of-the-mill corporate management seminar. No, this is a highly unique 8-week intensive curriculum based out of Jerusalem, specifically designed to forge what they call conscious leaders. In our time together today, we're going to explore the two-pillar curriculum that guides this transformation. We'll trace the exact path from learning academic theory to executing real-world agency, and finally, we'll see how this whole framework is utilized to build incredibly resilient, self-sustaining communities in an era of, let's face it, extreme complexity.
So I want to kick things off by challenging your current leadership posture for a second. Think about today's highly polarized climate. I mean, we are constantly surrounded by information warfare, right? So are you merely reacting to all that noise, or are you actively leading the conversation? This curriculum really highlights the sheer exhaustion of living in a constant reactive state, and it contrasts that with the real empowerment of true proactive leadership. It's fascinating to consider the stark contrast between the overwhelming chaos of what the curriculum identifies as the scarcity virus and the clear, focused empowerment of true leadership. And this brings us to the central mantra we're going to keep coming back to: stop reacting, start leading the narrative. It's literally about shifting away from a defensive posture where you're just constantly overwhelmed by competing stories and disinformation, and moving into a proactive stance that's built on a rock-solid ethical foundation.
All right, here is our roadmap for today. Number 1, we'll unpack that shift from reacting to leading. Number 2, Pillar 1, the internal core. Number 3, Pillar 2, the external narrative. Number 4, we'll map out the path to agency. And finally, Number 5, building resilient blue zones. Okay, let's dive right into Section 1, stop reacting, start leading. Because before we can even begin to talk about building a new kind of leader, we absolutely have to understand the problem they are trying to solve. The sources define our current societal framework as being infected by this scarcity virus. Think of it as a legacy global operating system that is entirely defined by zero-sum conflict. The idea that someone has to lose for someone else to win. It relies heavily on aid dependency and this totally reactive mindset that just keeps leaders constantly putting out fires, rather than actually designing collaborative, abundant futures. To actually cure this virus, the transformation has to start from within. So that brings us to Section 2, Pillar 1, the internal core. Here's the thing. You simply cannot lead externally if you are internally brittle. It just doesn't work. The goal in this first module isn't to tell leaders what to think, it's to build the actual architecture for how they think. And surprisingly, a massive part of this grounding involves a very strict do-no-harm framework that extends right into personal health, specifically using a whole food, plant-based diet to eliminate neurotoxins. So personal health literally becomes a measurable metric for your leadership capacity. Because a leader needs serious tools to navigate all this modern chaos. And the very first tool of what they call an ambassador of truth is ethical clarity. It's that rare ability to take a massive, tangled mess of moral ambiguity and just untangle it into straight, logical lines. Graduates of this program develop the logical rigor to construct incredibly sound arguments and, just as importantly, deconstruct flawed ones. This clarity acts as your shield to protect your own footing and your scalpel to dissect highly contested issues. Now, once that internal shield is forged, the program starts to look outward. This is Section 3, Pillar 2, the external narrative. So this internal grounding builds directly into what the program calls the geopolitics of abundance. It essentially bridges those foundational ethics with a hardcore narrative strategy, meaning historical literacy and media forensics. The curriculum argues, and I think this is super interesting, that an ethical core without narrative strategy is basically just silent philosophy. I mean, you might have great ideas, but you have zero actual influence. But conversely, narrative strategy without an ethical core, well, that's just dangerous manipulation. And the entire thesis of this 8-week intensive basically comes down to this intersection. True conscious leadership only emerges right where internal ethical clarity perfectly overlaps with external narrative influence. It's not just about winning a debate, it's about wielding the immense power of narrative, but doing so with profound, unshakable integrity. But hey, we all know theory is totally useless without execution. So, Section 4, the path to agency, where all these philosophies are actually put to the test in the real world. This execution takes the form of a rigorous daily routine known as the Israel flywheel.
Stage 1, right in the morning, is analytical planning. This involves using ethical AI systems to ensure all operations fully align with those do-no-harm protocols we talked about. Then, Stage 2 is afternoon biological execution, literally getting out there, getting their hands dirty in vertical farming systems and real-world agricultural practicums. Finally, Stage 3 is evening reflection and community dialogue. By repeating this exact rhythm, a fellow completely transforms from a student absorbing theory into an operator exercising real-world agency. So, what is all this intense training actually for? That brings us to Section 5, Building Resilient Blue Zones.
These communities rely on a really brilliant social structure called the triple helix. It's all about intergenerational synergy. You have combat veterans providing logistics and protection, translating all that tactical military discipline into ecosystem defense. Then, the elderly serve as these living databases of wisdom, providing generational oversight and historical cautions. And finally, the trained fellows provide the strategy, bridging technology with permaculture to lead the narrative. It's a system where vulnerability is completely replaced by a self-healing loop of mutual trust and protection.
And to physically house these communities, the framework utilizes modular habitats. These guarantee baseline survival. We're talking off-grid power cores for reliable energy, closed-loop water and waste sovereignty, and serious climate resilience for rapid deployment. The goal is super simple: cultivate immediate physical sovereignty. By guaranteeing that baseline survival, you completely eliminate the anxiety that drives so much human conflict, which finally allows true compassion to take root.
Economically, the contrast is just night and day. On one hand, you have the scarcity virus, which is entirely debt-based and extractive. The alternative being built here is a peace economy, powered by an asset-backed ecosystem. So instead of speculative, imaginary debt, this model is backed by real-world productivity, the actual physical yields of abundant food forest and clean water systems. By tokenizing tangible, life-giving assets, the program claims the community becomes fundamentally insulated from global inflation and market crashes. The curriculum argues that the most institutionally powerful concept of this entire framework is the idea of converting military discipline and post-service instability into regenerative civilian leadership capacity. Just think about the sheer magnitude of that promise for a second. It takes the very individuals trained for the defense of borders and deliberately repurposes their intent toward the defense of life support systems. It literally aims to turn the engine of war into the ultimate architecture for peace.
Which brings us to our final thought. We've seen how this framework aims to build a conscious leader from the inside out, forging an unshakable moral core, equipping them with serious narrative strategy, and testing them through daily biological execution to literally build global sanctuaries. So the big question remains, are you ready to stop reacting, take control of your internal core, and become an ambassador of truth? It's an open invitation to step out of the scarcity mindset and step into the real responsibility of leading the narrative. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I hope it leaves you curious to explore these vital frameworks even further.